Hi, I'm Sharon, and this is today's live broadcast from Doshibu. I'm the co-founder, and this is my co-founder, Kim Khan.
Hi.
Hey. Today we're going to talk about when you were working abroad, how a political process in your home country will affect you. Oops, sorry. That was us checking somewhere else.
Make sure it was broadcasting.
Make sure it was broadcasting somewhere else.
Which it clearly is.
Yes. Well, that's handy for everyone then. Okay, so let's get back to it. We were going to talk to you today about political processes and how it can affect you, and techniques you can use, methods you can use for yourself, your family, your colleagues, to handle a situation that's highly political. So let's get started. Where should we start?
I think we can start with just a basic idea that the politics of your home country are going to matter a lot in the politics of your host nation. And in many ways, you'll be seen as a representative of those politics. So obviously we've got our, the big 2016 presidential election in the United States, getting a lot of attention as always does across the world.
Right.
And the outcome of that election is going to affect people from the U.S. on international assignments currently, those planning on new international assignments. And so, one of the things for embarking on a political international assignment that you might want to talk to yourself about is how political are you?
Right. I think a lot of people have to make this jump in their mindset from the idea that you're a business person, that politics maybe doesn't matter that much to you, or, you don't think other people will care that much, to the point where you should acknowledge that being a foreigner is very, very different than being at home. So you have to make that mindset leap from, I don't think I'm going to have to deal with any of that, to, I'm probably going to have a plan. To deal with it. I think that's the first thing. You need to change how you think about yourself in that situation.
I mean, let's face it, there is the huge amount of people who simply just don't vote.
Right, absolutely.
So
yeah, what is it here in the States? It's like
50% voter turnout for major,
right, exactly,
presidential election, something. So yeah, I mean that's 1 out of 2 that are disengaged enough to not even vote in the big election. So I mean, you may be one of these people. You may not have thought much about politics. Or you may be at the other end of the spectrum, you may be very, very active in politics.
Right.
But, both ways are, both ends of the spectrum are going to face difficulties when going abroad. If you're not engaged at all, you're going to find that saying, oh, I'm not really political isn't quite going to cut it. People are just going to be like, okay, you must have an opinion, or you must, this, and, staying neutral, unless you're going to Switzerland, might be might be seen as actually just a kind of like almost disrespectful.
I think so, you're right. Then they'll be like, well, what's the point in this person anyway?
Yeah, or what is this person having? What are they
hiding?
So
it may seem disingenuous when it's not. It's genuine disinterest.
Right.
But it doesn't come over like that to someone when you're talking in this situation where it's two people from different nations doing that.
And they're making an assumption. I mean, it's not, it may not necessarily be fair to you, but they're making an assumption that, you've come to their country, and so you are an ambassador for your home nation. Now, you may have come just to, do an accounting job, or to, do something else, or, consult, and there's nothing to do with politics.
Right. Within your own organization, you may see it as just that's the boundary, that the political environment, the local environment that you're going into isn't really going to matter that much. You're only there for a short period of time, or, you just think, I'm not going to have that much contact with locals, so it's not really going to affect me so much. But I mean, it's just going to be a topic conversation amongst everyone as soon as you get there. So you have to have some way of dealing with that.
Yeah, I mean, because, American politics in particular, but global politics are now huge fodder for satirical shows, comedy shows, and it may just be like, everyone says, oh, did you see that show last night? And what do you think of that joke? And they're going to point to you and say, what do you?
Yes.
And that's, the
probably
person
with a large pause. As
right. What do you as the target of that joke
think?
And saying, well, I'm not political. It's like, yeah, but you have a sense of humor.
Right, exactly. So yeah, how you react is going to be important for how your colleagues think of you. And you are being tested in that environment. So think of it like that. Don't think of it as, you know, it's relaxing. It's like my home country. I'm just going about my business, doing whatever I want, because people will give you tests about who you are and what you think about this and
Right.
what you're doing there, really, because they are both curious and concerned at the same time, you know, both ends of that spectrum, that it's not just their curiosity, they are asking you purposefully too. And so you have to give a, you know, a well thought out, considered answer if you want to be taken seriously.
And then let's look at the other end of the political spectrum. Those are very politically active. You know, that is a consideration that you know, you're probably going to have to dial down on your international assignment.
Right.
I mean, you know, and, you know, I would say that, you know, one of the things to do is, you know, you may think that this is a good strategy, that, you know, that deferring to the politics of your host nation is a good idea, and saying, oh yeah, no, I hate America. I left it to come here where
I
I
want
so
to be
much.
just like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that you know, that's just putting a target on your back, basically, to say, okay, well, now you've, you said this. What are you doing though to make this country better, your host nation better? And then you might be expected to have an in-depth knowledge of the politics, might expect to get politically active when you're not ready to, or it might, you know, the terms of your international assignment with your company may not allow that kind of activity. It may not like you to, like, you know, support certain political candidates because of, you know, the company's policy of not getting involved, and, you know, supporting different political organizations. So that can be tricky, and you don't really want to you don't want to be self-effacing, and because I think people just see you as a bit self-loathing. And I think that's kind of a bad reputation to have. Yeah,
you don't want to communicate to anyone that you hated your home country and that's why you're here, because they'll treat you badly if they think that you need to be here.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to communicate that there are things you like about two countries, because that's not people's normal life experience. People live in their countries and they're embedded in their culture. They're not considering which part of it they like or don't like as much. They just exist within it. And if you're coming into a situation where you have a level of understanding just slightly above a local level of knowledge, where you can see, well, this culture is functioning like this, the society is choosing this, and I have seen this, you're going to develop those insights into how to see things in different ways. And you're going to have your own personal judgments, and depending on the requirements on you, maybe a business judgment as well, to not give an opinion, because they might think that then you're representing a foreign company to a country, which might not be something they want you to do either. So yeah, developing those skills, very, very important, and they're great for you, but you might want to think about how you express them. So don't be too open with your personal judgments as you start to detach from your own culture and start to see more than one way of doing things. Figure out that that's not normal and that it's maybe not what's required in a social setting. Think about how to talk about topics that might be of interest to someone, but not particularly in-depth, or explaining how you're not part of their life, because you need to be included while you're on international assignment.
Absolutely. And if you find, you may find yourself saying, you really like the country, your host nation, and there's lots of stuff about it, but just remember that there a lot of people in that nation might like a lot of things about your home country.
Right.
So they might think of, wow, you give up this, and this for this, which, there's a lot of people that they see the problems in their own country a lot more clearly.
Why are you here?
Yeah, exactly.
Look at this. Well, what are you thinking? I think I would have chosen what you had.
Right.
So yeah.
So don't make your move really about politics, I would say, because it isn't. In many ways, it should be about the job that you're doing and that you want to do it, and where you're working is huge. A huge reason why people go on international assignments, and it's a great reason to go. And I think that international assignments are something that everybody should do. But it's like the job also has to be like a really primary motivator for you. So and so you say, why did you come here? Oh, I got this opportunity to do this great job, and also to live in this country, which I think is excellent, and then takes the political edge off that.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, I think one of the ways that you can approach living in another country is to look to their history. Doesn't have to be hugely in the past. Sometimes recent history, will help you a lot more. So have some knowledge of the country that you're going to that's interesting. You know, there's a lot of things out there in the business world where there's, well, we'll just do an environmental analysis, pest analysis. Like, nobody wants to talk to you about that in the pub. So think about how you're going to tell an interesting story or something that you like about a country and explain it, or, you know, say how you see it and how an American would see that. I think people are very interested in differences of opinion in that way. But yeah, get that prepared. That's what I would do, is pre-prepare some interesting insights from both countries. So what you like, you know, I discovered this and it's funny and fun and people will know what you're talking about.
Yeah, TV can be your great ally in this.
Yes, TV can be a huge ally because it reflects a culture.
Yeah.
So even if you haven't been in that culture or brought up, it doesn't reflect the politics, it reflects what people were thinking and saying.
Yeah.
And that's much more important sometimes than getting along with
gauging the mood of the country at the time and what was popular. I mean, you look at the most popular shows and, you know, that can give you a great insight into what was going on, you know, in the recent past. So yeah, ignore pop culture at your peril, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important for you to have some insight into the social evolution within the country that you're in, how it's very, very different from your home country, and that the conversation is not the same. It takes a long time to hear the nuance, but I think if you start out with I'm going to try to comprehend like two societies that have developed differently and how that is, then once you've mastered that skill, you've got like a world-class skill on your hands for developing things. I mean, that's innovative, it's insightful, and in the end, it will help you develop as a person, develop anything you need to do to be able to see things differently. It's like, that's absolutely fantastic skill.
Yeah, and very effective in a practical way.
Yes, absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that can be problem solving across the spectrum of working with a colleague to building a product, team building in an international setting. So yeah, things like that can be good.
So what about, also about politics, I guess we should talk about, you know, you may think that foreign policy is going to be the big driver of it, but you know, it could be like social issues can be just as important.
Right, absolutely.
So, I mean, taking again the U.S. for example, if there's, you know, obviously if there's a lot of, you know, people say, oh, my country's saber rattling, if they're, you know, getting into international conflicts, obviously that's a problem. I'm going to have to be, you know, aware of what, you know, people's reactions to that. And of course that's true. Right. And, you know, there's going to be, but there's also going to be social issues that are going to be represented. So let's say that the president of the United States is pro-gay marriage, and you could be in a host country where that's, you know, homosexuality is really frowned upon. Right. That could be the lightning rod. Not
be any gay people.
Right. Oh yeah. Like,
and that can be guaranteed by their system of government.
Of course, like yes, that ridiculous
yes.
around statement.
Yes. So I mean, things like that you might think are just totally ridiculous. Laughing at the leader while you're there is probably not a good idea.
Right.
You know, so that, you know, we're talking about diplomatic skills in that sense, which may seem very foreign to you. I know that that's something I'm not particularly good at. I'm not, you know, I don't see things in a diplomatic way, and I don't want to sometimes. You know, I find that restraining, and the development is in the confrontation of an issue. But obviously, confrontation in political environment looks like war, and that's not a situation you want to get yourself into, right?
Right.
So yeah, things that work for a personal relationship or maybe for personal growth don't always work on an international stage, and you might not know that or feel that you are on an international stage. So be careful about how you present information.
And another thing to be mindful of, especially now, is social media and how you interact with social media in a political basis. I mean, a lot of, you may want to have a different Facebook account for your home country and your international assignment, where you can, lock off the one to, certain access to certain people from your home country, and have one as kind of the public face of your international assignment. You may want to have a company Twitter account where you tell everybody, and this is here I am representing my company in my new international assignment, and this is my new Twitter account.
Right. I think that's good. I mean, there are privacy settings there on Facebook that you can obviously easily create an exclusion zone for
Right.
your own private life so that you can talk about things you might need to talk about, like how you're experiencing things, with people who are open to that conversation and are not looking for someone to target or to misrepresent. As you know, what happens to you in an international assignment is very developmental, but politics is not necessarily about development. So be safe emotionally in that way by, looking for a trusted group of people who understand that, either your family or people who are working within the industry, who will know what's happening to you and understand that every time you express a negative opinion, it's not an attack on a culture,
Right.
which can be obviously easily misrepresented.
Yeah, I mean, basically, people see these social media applications as more messaging systems. So it's like a part of conversation. But you've got to remember that everything you write on social media is publishing.
Right.
And it's a relatively new thing. So if you're just tweeting to your friend and saying, "Oh God, this candidate's an idiot," it's the same
which
thing.
You might think is very normal to do.
Right, but it's the same thing as, let's say, running down to the printing press and rolling off a bunch of flyers and handing them out on the street corner, saying so and so is an idiot. You're basically giving the entire world to see this. And so would you do that? Would you go down onto the corner outside of your office in your host country and say, so and so is an idiot and this is what I dislike, and that's the kind of thing. So that is this is not an opportunity that people have had in even 10 years before to have their own global publishing system.
Right, and don't underestimate the reaction you might get from the local population. And it might not be that you've provoked them; it might be just that you get caught in their reaction.
Yeah.
If you take a look at political campaigns, I think the thing that comes to mind is, I think when Bill Clinton was running for president and they were campaigning downtown on Wall Street in New York, and the crowd just booed them the entire time. They couldn't really give any message or speech at all. But that's the kind of thing that might happen to you, because as soon as you step over that line into something, a movement, a cause, an issue within a country, then you might get treated like you've seen politicians be treated.
Yeah, you'll get swarmed.
Yeah, right. So be very careful about.
So don't insult Beyonce. And
Absolutely.
the first rule,
Beyonce.
The first rule of social media. The second one is think before you post. And
absolutely.
Because it could be misinterpreted, but it can get out of hand very quickly. It's unlikely that you could say something and then all of a sudden people say, "Oh, why aren't we boycotting your company?"
Right, exactly. Yeah, it can have consequences that are far-reaching. It can also have internal consequences. You're going to have to think about that as well. Some people will have different opinions on how much you as an individual within your company are either disloyal or disruptive by taking a different point of view. Obviously I am of the opinion that your politics it's your fundamental right to choose what you believe and to live in that way and to vote. But you might not be with a bunch of people who believe that particularly, or who might misrepresent that right as damaging. So you might get some internal politics played there as well, where people are either not at the level they require to make these intellectual decisions, or don't care that they're going to compromise something about you. They might see it as a play to their advantage. So be very careful that you don't get suddenly sandbagged within your organization for expressing a political opinion or interacting in a way that might be considered or be seen as an easy target for someone who wants to discredit you.
And a lot of things may seem completely obvious and benign for what you say, like saying, "Oh, democracy is good."
Right.
And then, but to a lot of people around the world, stability of government is more important than an open democratic system.
Right.
So, that's something to keep in mind. But, say, "Oh, this is a universal good." You may think it's universal good, but it's not universal necessarily. And it's not, those kind of statements aren't free from consequences. So.
No, they're not. So, yes, if you're prepared to go into the battle, then you've got to be prepared for the battle. But in general, I would say that this is something you need to manage and be aware there are both problems internally and externally in the way that you will have to manage this kind of complexity in your assignment where interpretations and re-representations of something you might think is benign might actually hurt your career.
Right.
So what else do we have to talk about? We've covered quite a few topics there. Is there anything else we feel?
I don't know. I don't have anything else on my list.
No, I think we've covered quite a lot. So thank you for watching. If you have questions or comments, then we have an email, live@deutschebrew.info. You can send us an email message anytime or contact us on Twitter. We're always there.
Yeah.
Leave a post under this YouTube video. Tell us what you thought and any nice pointers
Yeah.
that you might have. And really, if you have a criticism, give me an email. You know, like I don't want to see like you're an idiot on Facebook. So best wishes to you all for your international assignments. I'm sure you're going to do great. These are from our understanding of it, and I hope that it's going to make a big difference for you and create success for you while you're living abroad.
Stay tuned for our next broadcast.